Hi, my name is Janet Meredith Webb. I'm a clinical application specialist with the ventilation team at Draeger. This video is an overview of the quick startup procedure of the Babylog VN500. The components of the Babylog VN500 are the cockpit or the control panel on top, the ventilation box or V-box below, which is where you'll connect your ventilator circuit, and down below we have optional components. The GS500, which is your optional air compressor, and the PS500, which is your optional external battery option. The power supply gives you a 4-hour battery versus the 30-minute internal battery on the ventilator, which is standard. You power on the device by pressing the green button in the lower left-hand corner of the control panel. You'll notice a little light in the corner of the button indicating that the ventilator is powering up. You see a power bar scroll across the screen. Next to the power button, you'll find an indicator that shows that the ventilator is plugged into the wall, and you'll also see a battery indicator that tells you a basic status of the battery life. On the ventilation box below is where you're going to set up your ventilator circuit. The inspiratory limb of the circuit plugs into the nozzle on the right. The expiratory limb plugs into the nozzle on the left. If I lift the door, this is where the expiratory valve and muffler can be found, which are two of the components that are replaced between patients. Should you want to use a filter in line, if for instance you're doing a breathing treatment or have concerns about filtering the gas going to the room, the filter would go between the expiratory limb of the ventilator circuit and the expiratory valve. It is notable to point out that the gas flow on the VN500 never goes inside the box. It goes through the expiratory valve and out the muffler to the room, so there's no gas that goes back inside the box. Now that the ventilator is booted, you'll see on the control panel that I have the option to choose either current patient or new patient, which simply means do I want to recall the previous settings and data, which is current patient, or do I want to reset everything to default and clear out all of the trends and data? If I touch new patient, you're going to notice that the button turns yellow and the rotary knob on the lower right-hand corner of the screen turns yellow as well. This is like your enter button on the computer. You press it to activate whatever you chose on the screen. Once you've chosen new patient, the ventilator screen will take you to the Start Standby window. You'll notice that the ventilator is alarming Perform Device and Breathing Circuit Check, which is reminding you to check the status of the last pre-use test. Simply touch the alarm reset button next to the alarm message. Notice that the rotary knob lights up to remind you to confirm. By confirming, it clears that message. To check the status of the last system check, which is the pre-use test, you simply touch the System Check tab on the top of the Start Standby screen, and it takes you to the overview of the last device check and breathing circuit check and their status. Once you've confirmed that this has been done successfully, you can look at the device check and make sure that each of the components has a green dot indicating that all of the components have been successfully completed. Touching Start Standby takes us back to the standby screen where we can continue getting the ventilator set up and ready for the next patient. Notice in the middle of the screen a button that says Wait. This is where you're going to be able to set the patient's weight so that the ventilator will calculate your cc's per kilo based on the breath-to-breath tidal volume. Simply touch the button, turn the knob to dial in the patient's weight, and confirm. Touch, turn, confirm. That's a really important component of Draeger technology. If you go to the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you're going to find the Ventilation Settings tab. By touching that, it's going to open the window that gives you your modes of ventilation. You have configurable tabs that give you the 4 most often used modes. Other modes shows you everything that the machine can do. You have your basic or general ventilation settings and an additional settings tab for the additional adjuncts to the modes of ventilation. If you notice your modes of ventilation, what you're going to see is that every mode has a prefix of either PC for pressure control or SPN for spontaneous breathing. The breath sequence, assist control, SIMV, spontaneous CPAP pressure support, makes it easier to decipher the nomenclature on the machine. Your basic parameters are going to sit in the general settings window, and can be changed by touching the button. It's going to turn yellow. Turn the knob, confirm. Again, touch, turn, confirm is critical with Draeger ventilation. Set your basic ventilation parameters. Once these buttons all have the values that you are looking for, you can touch the Start Standby button and go back to the standby screen. Here you're going to find the Start Ventilation tab, and the ventilator is ready to begin ventilation. Touch Start Ventilation and confirm by pressing the rotary knob, and we are now ventilating our patient. The basic layout of the screen, you're going to find your ventilation settings and the buttons across the bottom. Again, touch, turn, confirm to make changes. Make sure that the button has the value that you indicated that you intended to change. Touch, turn. If I don't confirm, you're going to see that the ventilator will give you a setting not confirmed message to remind you that that setting has not been changed. This message can be cleared by touching Alarm Reset, confirming, clear off the screen. So our vent settings sit across the bottom. Anything that's blue is measured, anything that's green is set, and then we've got our graphics in the center of the screen. The screens on the VN500 are configurable. The values might be in a little bit different order or sitting on a different part of the screen, but anything that's blue is measured, green is set. So green is the machine, blue is the bed. Across the top of the header bar, what you're going to see is your patient category. I know that I'm in neonatal. Then I have a clock and a battery indicator. The next section of the screen is going to give you your mode of ventilation and any adjuncts that are active in that mode. The second part of the screen over here is going to be where your alarms are displayed. The alarm indicator has not only the audible tone, and your alarm silence can be found in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, gives you a little indicator of your 2-minute alarm silence. You get your alarm message, but you also get a 360-degree indicator that your screen, if you can't see, I can still see the alarm indicator across the back. Once your alarm is resolved, your alarm messages will stay across the top of the screen. Troubleshooting alarms is very simple. You simply touch the message. It's going to give you your alarms below, and the arrow is going to take you to the troubleshooting page that will give you all the potential causes and remedies for that particular alarm that you displayed. Touch the X that closes out that window, takes me back to my main monitoring screen. Old messages, again, can be cleared by touching Alarm Reset and confirming. Alarm Reset and confirming if there's more than 2. And then my alarm silence is going to finish out the 2-minute period, or I can touch Alarm Silence again and it will reactivate my alarms again. So we've got our ventilation settings across the bottom. Blue is the baby, green is the machine. My mode of ventilation and my alarms are displayed across the right-hand side of the header bar. These buttons on the right-hand side of the screen are going to show you the quick access buttons for some of the functions we use most often on the machine. If you skip down to the bottom, you're going to see your manual inspiration/hold. That's going to give you a manual breath. Touch and release, it's going to deliver a breath at your ventilation settings. This button does also function like a manual resuscitator in that I can hold the button down and it will deliver a breath for up to 5 seconds. It will indicate that it has interrupted the breath and gone back to traditional ventilation after that 5 seconds. The other important button is your O2 suction. If you touch O2 suction, you notice that the button turns yellow and it lights up the rotary knob to indicate that it must be confirmed. O2 suction gives you oxygen enrichment for a period of 3 minutes, and it also allows for the disabling of the disconnect alarm if you were to need to disconnect the patient for hand ventilating and suctioning. The O2 suction function on the Babylog VN500 is configurable. It's determined in the settings in the background what the change in FiO2 will be, and it's a percentage of your set FiO2. Your set FiO2 is always in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Your analyzed FiO2 is always displayed on the front of the ventilator box next to the FiO2. At the end of the 3-minute period, the ventilator will return the FiO2 to the set value, or it can be interrupted by touching the button again, turns yellow, confirm by pressing the rotary knob, and it will go back to the analyzed set FiO2 again. Notice that the button is light green when it's available. It's dark green when it's active. And again, it can be interrupted at any time if you want to quickly return the patient back to the set FiO2. Note that these buttons are configurable. They might be in a little bit different order, but O2 suction and manual breath will usually be at the bottom of the screen, but you can also access them through the special maneuvers button that takes us into the window that displays both of those functions. Touch the X that closes out that screen. If you want to make a fast change, you have quick access to your basic ventilation settings, and again, the technology wants you to touch the button, turn the knob, confirm by pressing the rotary knob, touch, turn, confirm. Your basic settings will always sit in the screen at the bottom in the green bubbles. To access your modes of ventilation, to make a change to your mode, simply touch the screen where the mode is displayed. The ventilator will open up that ventilation settings window. You've got your pre-configured modes for what you use most often, or other shows you everything the ventilator has. All of the modes are either pressure control or spontaneous. And for all your pressure control modes, you have under additional settings, volume guarantee. That gives you your volume targeted pressure control ventilation. If I turn off volume guarantee and go back to my basic ventilation settings, my tidal volume is gone, and I'm now setting my pressure. So it's an adjunct to my pressure control modes, and I can choose whether I set tidal volume or pressure. It's important to note on Draeger ventilators that the pressure that you set is the pressure that you get. The P-insp, or inspiratory pressure, is inclusive of your PEEP. So I have the P-insp set at 16, I have my PEEP set at 5, and you'll notice that your inspiratory pressure is reading 16. So then once you have your mode of ventilation selected, again, Other shows you all of the modes if it's not in one of the pre-configured tabs. Choose your mode of ventilation. Notice that you have the mode in yellow, confirm, make any changes that you want to your ventilation settings, touch, turn, confirm, and then to close the window, touch the X. To set your alarms, the Alarms tab is in the upper right-hand corner of the Configure buttons. Touch the button, it opens up the window, and it takes you to all of the active alarms in whatever mode of ventilation you're currently using. The machine shows you what the patient is doing in the middle in blue, high alarms on the top, low alarms on the bottom. And again, just like making changes to settings, touch, turn, confirm. Make sure that the button shows you what the alarm is that you intended to set. Touch the X in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, takes us back to our main monitoring page where we have our blue values as the patient and our green values as settings. On the very bottom of the right-hand column, you have a Help button, and that's going to take you to the instructions for use embedded in the control panel. When you're ready to stop ventilating your patient, simply touch the Start Standby button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This is going to take you to the standby window where you'll find the Standby tab, and standby is activated by touching the button and confirming. The machine will alarm that we're no longer ventilating the patient and standby is activated. We reset that by touching the button and confirming, and the ventilator will clearly indicate that the patient is not ventilated. To begin ventilation again, simply touch Start Ventilation and confirm, and it takes us back to ventilating your patient. To turn off the ventilator, your on-off switch is in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. If I touch it while I'm ventilating my patient, you notice it takes me to the Start Standby screen. I activate standby by touching and confirming, alarm reset confirming, And now if I press the button to power down the machine, it will allow me to do so by pressing OK and confirming. Draeger users have access to ICON, Intensive Care Online. ICON is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week clinical support hotline where clinicians can call with questions on any Draeger ventilator. Device tutorials and clinical resources can be found on the ICON website. Thank you for watching.